Hello, you lovely ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dangs, and today I welcome you guys to... Did I say Dangs? My name is Dangs. My name is Mangs, not Dangs. God, that was great. I'll keep that in. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dangs, and today I welcome you guys to a bit of an educational video. Today, I'm going to teach you guys how to counter a specific kind of cheese that I often tend to face while queuing up for like mid-level games on the high funds ladder. Now, the high funds ladder is a very exciting place to be on Advanced by Web if you want to spice up your regular matches a little bit. In high funds, you get 2,000 income as opposed to the 1,000 income that you normally get, which results in a very wild matchup with tons of high-tech units, mega tanks, neo-tanks, bombers. You know, it's complete chaos. I love it. It's by far the least played kind of match on Advanced by Web. A lot of people don't like it very much, but I definitely recommend you check out the high funds ladder if you want some excitement. It can be a little wild. I don't recommend it to newer players, but if you played for a little bit, it can be a great way to spice up your Advanced Wars matches. So, however, one thing that I've noticed a lot on the high funds ladder is that sometimes you'll go up against opponents that just spam a lot of indirects off the bat. Like they open up rocket, artillery, then more artillery, and they just try to zone you off the map. And I don't recommend doing this unless you play like Grits. He is available sometimes on the high funds ladder. But I don't really recommend doing this strategy. I don't think it's very good because there is a very easy way to counter this particular level of cheese, which I'll be showing you in this video. It works pretty much every time. But if you're a new player and you go up against this, it can actually catch you unaware if you don't know how to respond to it. And there's no worse way to lose Advanced Wars than to just be zoned out by rockets and artillery and just have your units smashed to pieces. It really can make you rage quit. It can make you never want to touch Advanced Wars again. It's so frustrating to go up against. But as I said, ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'll be instructing you guys on how to counter this cheese with a little bit of cheese of our own. So this is a high funds match on the ladder. The map is called Money Jungle, but for the purposes of this video, the map doesn't matter. Almost every single high funds map is structured the same way. You have a weak side and you have a strong side. So this is my opponent's strong side with 2 bases. This is his weak side with 1 base. And I have my strong side here and my weak side here. And pretty much every single high funds match is structured like this. You'll have 2 fronts. There are a few maybe where the battle takes place in the middle, but they are very rare. So what I'm about to teach you, it pretty much applies no matter what kind of map you're going into. Now this is a mid-level match. My opponent is rated around 1100. No Grandmaster or anything like that, but neither am I. And this is in a video that is meant to instruct beginners who tend to run into this kind of cheese. So don't take everything you see in this video literally, like I'm no Grandmaster. This is just a nice little strategy that you can apply in your own high funds matches. It's very rare that you'll see indirect spam outside of high funds. You can see it maybe sometimes, but it's very rare because you just don't have the economy for it. But this time around, as I said, I went up against an 1100 player. However, I did notice that this particular individual probably wasn't very good at high funds because he picked Sasha. This is a big beginner trap in high funds. Do not pick Sasha. Now, you may look at the tier lists and you may say, well, isn't Sasha a tier above Kindle in high funds? And yeah, she is. She is tier 2, but you still shouldn't pick her in my opinion. Now, she's a money CEO, so a lot of people look at her and they go, oh, well, her power scale with money, so she should be good in high funds, right? Completely wrong. She's terrible in high funds. First of all, her day-to-day power effectively gets cut in half. She gets 100 extra income per property, but this doesn't scale with high funds. So instead of getting 10% increased income like she does in Standard and Fog, she only gets 5% increased income. So think of any other CEO if you slashed her day-to-day in half, like Max, he gets a 10% bonus to his direct units instead of plus 20. He would be like trash tier 4 probably. Imagine Kindle if she only got a 20% firepower bonus on properties and her Urban Blight dealt like 1 or 2 HP damage. She'd be really bad too. So Sasha effectively has her day-to-day halved, which is really bad. And additionally, her market crash, which is her bread and butter, it's too unreliable in high funds. Power meter rises too quickly. Like it's not uncommon to see like 3 neo-tanks on each side. So you can just smash your neo-tanks into Sasha and immediately pop your power, and she won't even get a chance to pop her market crash, which means that it's completely useless. She can pop it for like the passive 10% firepower in defense, but that's pretty much it. And then of course she has War Bonds, which is one of the worst superpowers in the game. Never activate this. Noobs always think that War Bonds is an amazing power because, oh, so much money I can get out of this. And yeah, you can get some money out of it, but it's just not worth it in the end. for what it does, a superpower should be a tool to like end games or give you a huge advantage. And all War Bonds does is give you a little bit of extra money, and it's not really felt that much. It doesn't really give any firepower increases, any mobility increases, or anything like that. So it's a really trashy superpower, and you'll see just how bad it is. Now I pick Kindle. I think Kindle is really good in high funds. She's not like... Her Urban Blight can deal a crazy amount of damage, and especially on a map like this, she can be very tricky to go up against. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I'm just going to show you guys how I responded to this particular level of cheese. So, let's begin. So, on this map, on this particular map, the capture phase is a little slower than you might expect because many of the bases start out uncaptured. It's a small map. Like it's not a very big map at all. The action takes place very quickly in the center here, but the capture phase is a little slower than you might otherwise expect because you have to capture this base, then you have to capture this base. So it takes a little while for the action to get going. But this also means that it's possible for your opponent to utilize this indirect spam because there won't be like a lot of tanks rushing out immediately. So both players just opening up infantry to begin with right here. Nothing unusual out of the ordinary. Both players just, you know, utilizing their capture phases, grabbing as many properties as they can. But then you're gonna see where the cheese begins. I don't think it's quite yet. It's one more turn. Yeah, actually, no, it's right now. So here we go. 2 rockets, artillery. So when I saw my opponent open up this this particular opener, I was like, okay, great. I've been wanting to make a video about this because I do encounter this pretty frequently in high funds. And it's a very annoying kind of cheese, and people shouldn't do it because it's super easy to counter. So he opens up rocket artillery. This pretty much tells me that he intends to try and zone me out, right? So he is going to try and use these rockets and use his infantry to shield them and just like move forward, edge slowly forward, and then basically just try and get properties on his side and then start to exert like map control over me. And because it's high funds, he can do this. Like in the standard match, he wouldn't have the income for this, but in high funds, it's very doable to do this. Now, I've already opened up a Neo Tank. This is something I like to do in high funds. I think opening up Neo Tank is completely fine. Exert a little bit of pressure immediately. But once I saw this, I was like, okay, all right, time to show how to deal with this. So I just continue my capture phase. I move up my Neo Tank, and I build another Neo Tank immediately. But I build it on my weak side. I don't build it on my strong side. And this is intentional, okay? So he has a rocket here, he has a rocket here. I have a Neo Tank on both sides. So it looks like I'm just, you know, going about my opener, not really doing anything special. But you'll see exactly what I intend to do. And there's a very good reason why I'm deploying Neo Tanks in particular, because they're very crucial to this matchup. So here you can see my opponent opens tank, medium tank infantry, so he's not just going indirects. He very much intends to build some direct units to shield his rockets. But already, he's set himself on a path for disaster. So here I move in with my Neo Tank. Again, I'm bluffing right now. I'm not actually intending to attack. I'm just moving forward to pressure him. And I go about my regular capture phase. This was not a great move. I'm not going to be able to get this, I think. So I probably should have just moved back, but oh well. That's not really what we're going to focus on in this particular video. I'm not going to overanalyze each move here. I'm just going to show you how I deal with indirect spam. So, yeah, he continues capturing, and he moves his rocket. He obviously can't move it forward because there's a Neo Tank here already zoning it out. He moves in his tank, and here you can see he's already attempting to shield many of his indirects, and he's creating a pretty good wall here. I can't break through this. He builds more tanks to protect his indirects. And look what I decide to do. So here, I pull back, and I immediately start switching all my units over to his weak side. So this is why I build Neo Tanks, because they're fast. They got 6 move. And this allows them to front switch very quickly. So right now, I bluffed him by moving my units towards this rocket, forcing him to pull the rocket back. And now, my strategy is to take all my strong units and immediately shift them over to his weak side. So I build 2 tanks. Again, tanks and Neo Tanks. Medium tanks, too slow. I don't want medium tanks. They only have 5 move. They won't reach the rockets in time. I want Neo Tanks and I want tanks. And then eventually battlecopters and bombers when I capture my airport. So he sees that I'm doing this now, but look how slow this rocket is. It's so slow. And because of this Neo Tank right here, it can only inch slowly towards me. So indirects are super immobile. They take forever to get into position. Look at this rocket here, how slow it is. And my opponent is doing decent walling right here, but it doesn't matter, because right now, I am just going to push everything I have over on his weak side. Look at me, just creating a perfect concave. That was the word I was looking for the other day in the Inkugork Starflash game. Making a perfect concave around his rocket right here. And look at this, I am applying all my pressure on this weak side right here. Look at his rocket, it's completely out of position. What is he going to do? Attack infantry? Like I don't care. Like, I'm leaving these properties for him, because here's the thing. In a base race scenario, I will win. If I apply everything I have to his base, I will capture his base before he captures my base. And once I capture this base, I can just rush over him from the side. So, right now, I'm just focusing everything I have on his weak side. And he's advancing forward, but because of the nature of indirects, he can't really advance quickly because they're so slow. Here he actually goes in for the attack here. Big mistake. He sees the engage. This was a bit of a bait from me. I knew he could do this, but I kind of wanted him to, because I mean, I got Neo tanks aplenty here. This medium tank is gonna die. This is definitely not worth it. There is no way you can prevent a push on your weak side from the opponent's strong side indefinitely. Especially not in high funds. He has one base, I have two bases. And I'm additionally shifting units over from my weak side to my strong side. So it's an all-out attack on his weak side. There's no way he can hold this back. Now here I build a mega tank. This is another thing you can do in high funds on your weak side to stall. This mega tank will not be able to reach here in time, so I don't plan to front shift it. This mega tank has one job, and that's just to delay this attack on my weak side for as much long as possible. 28,000 is quite a big investment, but this solitary mega tank can zone out his entire push. Rockets don't really do that much against mega tanks, and if you plonk it down on your base as Kindle, well, that mega tank will kill pretty much anything that attacks it. It won't even take damage from artillery, so it's a good defensive unit. Now, my opponent correctly responds with Bomber, which is smart. This Bomber also shields the rocket, which is not terrible. But due to the sheer amount of units that I have on my strong side, it's going to be very bad for him. Now, my opponent actually does a huge mistake here. He overextends. He sees that I'm front switching over to his weak side, so he now pushes hard on my weak side, and he's bringing in medium tanks, rockets, and whatnot. But here's the beauty of Neo tanks, ladies and gentlemen. They're so fast, you can front switch them once, and then front switch them twice. I see an opener here, and I just go immediately back, and I take out his medium tank. Sure, I go into the range of his artillery, but the artillery dies as well. So my opponent panics and overextends. And this is a very common response to people who spam a lot of indirects early on. They'll often panic once you front switch over to their weak side. So here comes my Urban Blight. Again, look, he didn't even get a chance to block it with his market crash. This is another reason why Sasha is absolute trash in high funds. I've dealt damage to all of his units, and now he pretty much has to rely on his shitty war bonds or just waits. So yeah, I just continue capping. A little bit of a Manx infantry here, probably shouldn't have done this. Although, you know, if he wants to interrupt it with this infantry has 80% extra firepower right now, thanks to Urban Blight. But yeah, I continue to pressure him. So now I've actually front shifted over to my weak side, and now I'm applying pressure. This rocket is going to fall unless he pulls it back here. I build a fighter because that's the only good response to a bomber. Anti-air just won't cut it, especially not on a map like this where there's so much forests and rivers and mountains. The bomber can just dance around it. Also keep in mind, I have no movement increases, so the anti-air is not going to catch a bomber out in the open. But he actually attacks. This is a bit of a weird move in my opinion. He should just pull back. I mean, sure, I just front switched, but I still have some decent amount of units over here. But he has no choice but to pull the rocket back, so he has to retreat, right? So, and now he has to create a wall around the rocket to prevent it from being taken out. Goes for a little bit of a cute attack here, not really going to do a whole lot. But now he has to pull back, right? And he interrupts this capture. Not bad. And so now on day 11, I have another option to do, right? I can push in here, but it's probably not going to go very well. He has a mega tank and a bomber. So what do? Well, first of all, I move my fighter in because he's made a mistake. He doesn't have any anti-air here or a fighter, so this bomber is very exposed right now. Also, I do think this pipe seam is destroyed. I'm not entirely sure. But I do move my mega tank in because the mega tank is too slow to front switch. I would rather have it in this vicinity. However, all my other units, I just decide to front switch them to the other side now. Okay, I made him retreat on this side. Now I'm gonna front switch all my Neo-Tanks over to the other side. This is the beauty of Neo-Tanks in high funds. They're so fast. So again, once I make him retreat, I just swap over to the other side. And you know, and also I'm doing a tactic here, which I've dubbed the Scorched Earth tactic, which is your infantry are also too slow to front switch. So what you can do is you send them in, and you do as much damage to the enemy infantry as possible. This limits their capture. So you can see I have some properties that I would rather not lose here. You know, this property is exposed. The Mega Tank is here to defend it though, but this property might fall. This property is getting, I don't want him to get my comm tower. Now, a good method that you can use whenever you are losing on a front is to just send the units you do have in and try to do as much damage to the enemy infantry as possible. I call this Scorched Earth because you're sacking your own units, but you're also inflicting damage to the enemy's infantry. This means that even though they win on their side, they're not going to have enough infantry around to capture the cities are in your vicinity, or they're going to need to build new ones, which are going to take a lot longer to arrive. So this means that Sasha's going to have she's going to have really big difficulties actually being able to capitalize on this win right here. So yeah, it's again, Scorched Earth mode. I do like doing it. It's a great way to ensure that your opponent, even though they're winning on your side, they're not really going to be able to benefit from it. Because at the end of the day, if you can't capture cities, then your victory doesn't really mean a whole lot, right? Because you're not getting much out of it. And they have to build an infantry. The infantry has to slowly walk their way down to the exposed properties. I mean, he does have some infantry here, but they're all damaged thanks to Urban Blight. So his capture phase is going to be very slow. And I retain a skeleton crew and the Mega Tank here just to not make it easy for him. I know that I won't be able to hold him off indefinitely, but that's not my point here. I've now front switched most of my army over to this side, and I'm going to start applying pressure here. And there's no way he's going to be able to hold me back. So I'm just moving back and forth, left and right, pushing him back, pushing him back, pushing him back, pushing him back. This is the weakness of opening up indirects. You completely give up map control. You're not able to respond properly. You're not able to move your units around properly. These indirects, they're powerful in the right scenario, but here they're a big liability. They're just juicy targets for me to take down. And this is why you shouldn't open up indirects in high funds unless you play grid or something. So he builds a fighter. He has to retreat his bomber thanks to my fighter, and you know, he sees this quote-unquote free hit with the medium tank, and sure, it is a quote-unquote free hit with the medium tank, but not really though, because it also puts his medium tank greatly out of position. These two Neo-Tanks are threatening the rocket right now, and he's going to be in a world of hurt if he doesn't do something. So again, he moves his rocket back. Look how slow it is. True Forest, it pays 3 movement costs. Rockets have 4 move. So if they move through a forest, they can usually only move 1 tile. But here, he builds another rocket! So he still hasn't figured out that these indirects are costing him the game now. He's really sticking to his build order. He's like, well, I got 1 rocket, so I might as well build another rocket. But this is the problem with this kind of playstyle, is that it's so immobile, he can't respond to anything. Now, of course, this is a decently scary push. The 2 rockets, while they don't do a lot of damage to my Mega Tank, they will be able to hurt it a little bit. But I don't really care about that because, yeah, I don't really know why he put his tank there. Bit of a blunder. I move my tank back, and I just continue capping. And here again, once again, I'm setting up all my units. I know he has a bomber. I don't really care. I have an anti-air to shoot down the bomber if he goes for my Neo tank. It's not particularly threatening to me. So I move in. And here, just this Mega Tank is great. I mean, nothing he has can hurt this thing at the moment. He has 2 rockets, but it's so hard to get them into positions. This Mega Tank can just drive around, one-shotting infantry, being incredibly annoying. And here I actually do a bait. So I move my fighter intentionally in range of his fighter because I want it to strike me, and you'll see why. I actually want to trick him into popping War Bonds. I'm thinking, okay, he picks Sasha in high funds. He probably doesn't know how shitty War Bonds is. So what I do is I present him with a juicy target in this fighter in hopes that he'll pop War Bonds, go in, and try to get some money out of it. Because I want him to pop War Bonds. It sucks. So this was actually intentional on my end. I made it seem like I made a mistake and placed it in range. I shielded it behind these 2 infantry here, but you'll see exactly why in a turn from now. I was pretty happy with this bait right here. So predictably, he sees the fighter and he's like, oh, War Bonds! I'm gonna pop War Bonds. I'm gonna get some money out of this. So he goes in. Look at his money now: 45,000, 52,000. Okay. Goes up to 58,000. All right. 58,000. Still 58,000. All right. 66,000. Okay. 69,000. It's getting, you know, some money back from this. 73,000. Okay. 75,000. Okay, it looks pretty scary. I mean, that's a lot of money he just got out of that. Well, that's that. What he started with 45, now he has 75, 55, 65. So yeah, so 30,000 funds that he's gotten out of war bonds right now, and this is a decent war bonds. This is like as good as war bonds becomes. So, all right. So not a bad turn. 30,000 funds of value generated by war bonds. I'd say that's pretty much as you can expect. But if you really think about it, right? Like Sasha fanboys will be like, "Oh, it's a lot of money, man. It's like a mega tank, right?" But 30,000 funds of value generated by your superpower, you superpowers are there to like win the game and to do like a game-ending push, not just to get a little bit of money. I mean, like to contrast this with our brother, I know Colin is broken, but if she had popped Gold Rush, she would have almost gained as much money out of it. Colin's normal power would almost have been as good as Sasha's superpower in this situation. So again, you can see that my opponent definitely has some value right now. He built 2 Mega Tanks with this new War Bonds power. And my turn rolls in. I do not fall for the temptation of popping High Society. Do not pop High Society. It's bad, ladies and gentlemen. It is terrible. You may look at High Society and you'd be like, oh my goodness, 130% firepower. And 3% firepower per property. Whoa! That's like yeah, it's like a 60% increase in firepower. That's trash. Okay, that's trash. That's like a max blast, but without the movement. Okay, and sure, I mean, like the 130% extra firepower on properties is pretty nice, but Urban Blight gives you 80. That's fine too, and you can pop it twice in a row. Like my opponent just popped his super, so he's not gonna have the power for a market crash. So I'll be able to pop my Urban Blight again next turn. So just pop Urban Blight. It's just a better power. Like High Society, such a niche power. And I've seen some pro players try to make it work, but it always ends up not being very impressive. So here, come in, and again, like this is the beauty of the Mega Tank, right? This is why it's so good. I don't give a shit about this rocket attacking me. It's going to deal like 2 HP of damage. Mega Tank's still going to be nice and healthy, right? And here I'm actually even like threatening his rocket a little bit because all of his infantry are damaged now, so... And yeah, so I don't think this attack is particularly scary. I find a good opener to take out his rocket, so boom, that rocket is useless right now. So again, that's how viable that rocket ended up being. He's been protecting it all game, and now he just ended up falling to a tank costing 7,000. And yeah, my attack comes in here. I take out this infantry right here, and here I actually move my fighter in on the comm tower. The fighter does get the 80% firepower boost on the comm tower because it's counted as a property. So you can see how much damage it ends up dealing to this bomber right there. Brings it down to 4 HP, which we're pretty happy with. And then I use my healthy bomber, or healthy anti-air to take out the fighter. So already you can see this is a decent counterattack. I'm not particularly worried. War Bonds, it did afford him 2 Mega Tanks, but the repairs that he's going to have to pay next turn is going to be astronomical. Just look at his income. This is going to be fantastic. So, yeah, so look at that. He has 2,000 in the bank, 46,000 income. And now I build a Mega Tank too. Look at his repairs. Boom. He went from 46,000 to 32,000. So 15,000 in repairs from Urban Blight alone. That's pretty insane. And I can pop Urban Blight again very soon. Just need to do a little bit of battle and I'll be fine. So, yeah, he pulls back his rockets again, and now he has an anti-air, but he's done a huge, massive mistake. He's trying to fight back a little bit on his weak side. It's not a bad counterattack per se, but he's not going to be able to hold out here. Even if he's doing a lot of damage here, I outnumber him on this side. He's not going to be able to take fights. It's not going to be possible. He builds a fighter. And day 14 rolls in, and you can see my Urban Blight is almost ready. I just need a little bit, needs about 5k worth of power charge. That's super easy to get. I move in, he makes a big mistake. Anti-air does not really work against bombers and high funds. And once again, another Urban Blight. Boom. It's not the best Urban Blight I've ever seen, but it's okay, you know. And yeah, now I just start moving in, and my unit lead is pretty insane right now. As you can see, I'm just picking off many of his weaker units. And this allows my infantry to start just capturing properties everywhere because he just doesn't have the unit counter to interrupt them. I surround the Mega Tank, which he can get it out pretty easily, but I don't know. I felt like being cute. At this point, the match is pretty much won. So yeah, double Neo Tank. Like, he can't keep up. He can't keep up with this. And a Mega Tank is coming in soon too. Once this bad boy enters the field, he's just lost. Look at him. He's split up into two here. So he tries, you know, but then he just resigns. So again, just want to really specify here. This is not a high-level match. This was not a top-level caliber opponent. I'm not saying that Sasha can never work in high funds. High funds is obviously not my specialization. I'm sure someone can make her work on certain maps, but what I wanted you guys to take away from this particular replay commentary is just, if you run into someone who opens up indirects in high funds, just front switch your entire army over to their weak side, apply pressure. If they pull back, you front switch your army to the other side, apply pressure there. Once they pull back, you front switch to the weak side again. You rinse and repeat until you destroy them, because when your opponent opens up indirects, they are incapable of front switching themselves because the indirects are so slow. So it's just, you know, it's just like it's like you're playing dodgeball, right? And your opponent is just going from left to right, and you're going to left to right, and your opponent is very fat, so they can't move to the left or right as fast as you can. So you can just tell. This is terrible. This is probably the worst analogy I've ever made, but I think you guys get my point. When you're more mobile than your opponent, you can dance around them. And this is why opening up indirects in high funds is a terrible idea. Again, unless you're Grit, and there is a map that is specifically made for that. So just don't do it. And if you encounter this kind of cheese on the high funds ladder, just do this strategy, you know? Build lots of Neo-Tanks and tanks, and just front switch back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until your opponent crumbles. It will statistically happen. Now, would this be harder if my opponent was someone like, I don't know, say Jake or Jess, or someone with actual good indirects? Yeah, maybe a little bit, but I think the principle still would have been the same. I still would have been able to just front switch back and forth, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what CO you play, rockets still have 4 move on a day-to-day basis. They can't move very fast. Artillery too, just not very fast units. They have 5 move. They're like medium tanks. So as long as you have Neo-Tanks and tanks, you are faster than them. You decide where the engagements take place. Push, retreat, switch, push, retreat, switch, push, retreat, switch, push, retreat. Rinse and repeat until you win the match. So hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, you guys found this video a little bit helpful in how to counter this particular level of cheese. I think in time, once more people learn how to counter this, we'll see it less and less. But there always will be some people who attempt this level of cheese in high funds. As long as they can get away with it, as long as they can stomp a few noobs with it, they're going to continue to use the cheese until the community eventually learns how to counter it, and then it'll just vanish. So yeah, hopefully this video helped you out a little bit. Like, comment, and subscribe if it did. And I'll see you guys in the next time. In the next one. My name has been Dangs. Bye.